Hello, Philly people! Now that we're done with basic character introductions, time to look at what we have to work with. Which, as I said in episode 1, is very little. Timeline time! No, don't click off! Oh, and if you randomly stumbled onto here, go watch the first 8 episodes, you know where to find playlists, we're all grown-ups. So the timeline for Beacon Era is a mess. Only slightly better than the mess of volumes 4 and 5. In fact, it contradicts itself in the weirdest ways, which made plenty of timeline takes before very confusing. The power of retcon, dare I say. So first we'll talk about these weird things, then we'll move to the events of the story while placing them approximately where they by all logic would be. Throughout the video I will be referring to the lines set in the show. And since there is no way for me to get the subtitle screenshots, and I value my sanity too much to pull and edit in clips for every single citation, here's how we're gonna be doing things instead. On screen right now you'll have a list of citations with references for every relevant episode and timecodes in them. When I quote a line, in closed captions you'll see a citation pop up in the brackets. So if you for some reason want to debate Lord me on they didn't actually say that, you can refer to the list, find the needed number, and go to the cited episode and timecode to see the line for yourself. For example, if I say Glinda mentioned that it's been weeks, right now you'll see the citation for the timecode when she said it in Jaundice Part 1. In closed captions only, because again, I value my sanity too much. Speaking of sanity, here are all my fucking notes for this video in case you're wondering. So let's talk through the basics of the timeline first, put in some baseline. Remnant doesn't have numbered years, at least none that we were told of, which makes things harder. For the sake of timeline, let's assume they start in recounted years, starting with the end of the war. Seems like a big enough deal to start a whole new calendar. We'll talk through this later on in the video, but the war ended somewhere around spring, which, if they're using the same calendar as us, would make things a bit weird to count, because it's already ways into the year. So let's put the actual end of the war as year 0, and then they started counting the actual year since the war ended started next January. Again, this is just for our convenience. That would make the Beacon Era takes place in years 79 and 80. That logic also matches with Ospin's line, first establishing when the war took place. On this day nearly 80 years ago. Nearly because of the calendar mismatch. Everyone still following? Good. Because now we will get to the plot hole retcon land, after fixing which we can move into what we know. So 2 things that we do know for a fact. 1. School year starts in autumn. 2. Vital Festival takes place in autumn. Do you see the funky inconsistency? If not, let me explain. The school year starting in autumn was a word of God that I for the life of me can't find a citation for, but everyone knows it as a fact and multiple other timelines also have used it as canon. In Volume 2, Ruby said that Vital Festival is at the end of the year, and from seeing it in Volume 3, it takes place in autumn too, and seemingly by the change of leaves, later than the start of the year. Do you see the oopsie now? So something tells me that initially Beacon was supposed to start in spring, like a typical anime, but then it got retconned and the inconsistency stayed, hoping that nobody would notice. I've seen timelines that try to negate it and fit it in somehow, but come on, what school year starts in November? Does it look like November? And we can blame shoestring reasons because we had snow in Red Trailer and Red Trees in Chapter 13. Either solution would be just to move Vital Festival to the start of their second year at Beacon. It's cleaner, it doesn't require shifting things weirdly, and it's a tiny, insignificant retcon because by the end of that week everything goes to shit anyway. Oh, and that would mean that at the start of the show Ruby is 14, which we weren't actually given her age in show until CL told us during the festival, so no retcons there. So with those housekeeping matters out of the way, let's dive into the timeline chronologically. The earliest point of this arc is Cinder recruiting Emerald and Mercury, as we can see from her hair. Typically, it would take about 2 years to grow it out to the length Cinder has it during Volume 2. At most a year if we want them to really rush with the plan. Yes, her hair remains the same length throughout the flashback, but that's clearly shoestring reasons, not having to make new models just for that. So, Cinder recruits Em and Merc somewhere around year 78, and they slowly do their thing in the background. Next point would be Red Trailer, allegedly taking place in the winter before Beacon, thus winter of 78-79. Then it's White Trailer, or at least the Armageddon's fight portion of it. We know it to be the test from Jacques that allowed her to apply to Beacon. Applications are usually sent in during spring-summer, and Beacon also has entrance exams after that, so we'll put White Trailer somewhere in the May-July of 79, with the concert portion being the last concert she performed at before going to Beacon. There used to be a section here of me diving into how long wounds take to turn into scars, but then I remembered, oh shit, Aura, never mind. Also, imagine the fight being actually on her birthday, May 15th. Oof. Next, we're back to criming, because Cinder made contact with Roman and now is negotiating with White Fang, which for now falls through, leaving her to go hunt down Amber and leaving Adam to heist the train next morning with Blake, which means Black Trailer is here somewhere in the summer of 79, enough time for Blake to apply after running away. Meanwhile, Cinder and Co hunt down Amber, take half her powers and leave her comatose. Crow gets her to Beacon Vault, and with assistance from Ironwood, they put her on life support. We can assume they already had those pods made for Freya, so either Pietro just whips up another one real quick before the start of the year, or Ironwood just brought it with him when he arrived in Volume 2. Most likely the version of before start of the year, considering Amber's terrible condition, can't risk her just laying around for months without life support. Also would explain why Oz is surprised Ironwood came with his school. He was already there a few months ago for all the secret stuff. Meanwhile, Cinder returns to Adam and makes him piss his pants by showing him some funky magic tricks. By now it's late August, and the application acceptance letters are being sent out, with people soon going to Beacon. That's when we finally get to Chapter 1, where Ruby is out in Vale getting Yen a goodbye present, kicks around some baddies, and accidentally gets herself into Beacon 2. Chapter 2 through 8, in this version, are all on the same day, September 1st, 79. Recap: all new students are on the airship to Beacon, getting to know each other at once. Soon after, Glinda and Oz as holograms tell them about the initiation and what will be happening there, about the forest and relics. Students arrive at the Beacon Cliff, get heated off it, blah blah blah, you know the rest, epic fight, headless nevermore, teams formed. More on these and some other restructuring changes in the next video. September 2nd, girls decorate their dorm, Osmond speech to first years, then Port's class with the whole PC-wise side plot. After their first week at school, on the weekend, Yang goes to Junior's club and blows it up. Yellow trailer. Not too long ago, so Junior would remember her very well, but the club seems rebuilt. Also explains how Weiss knows about it, between stopping thieves and blowing up nightclubs. Yes, I know there's Roman there hiring Junior's goons that never come back after Ruby deals with them in Chapter 1. But this is the only logical place where I can put Yellow Trailer into the story, so... let's think it's Roman hiring more guys, like he said he needed to at the end of Chapter 8. And they didn't come back because they're dumbasses and got caught, so he switched to more competent White Fang grunts. Then we hit our first time skip with Jaundice. As I mentioned in the intro, Glinda says that it's been weeks now. Usually when people say weeks, they mean more than 3. So this part takes place somewhere in late September, early October. Jean gets snappy with Pyrrha, tells you about the cheating his way into Beacon, gets caught by Carlin. And then there's another time skip, because upon seeing Jean in the hallway, Ruby says, "Long time no see, and so where have you been lately?" Which people don't usually say when it's like a few days and you have classes together every day. So a couple more weeks for sure, putting us now in November. Which also means that now Ruby is 15. Blah blah blah, forever fall, Jean and Pyrrha start training together. Can you guess what? Yep, another time skip. People starting to prepare for Vital Festival half a year in advance. But I'm not the one making the rules. Ask Oz why he made it so stupid, forcing students to leave their school and study in another one for half a year for a tournament that would take like 2 weeks tops. Anyway, logistical nitpicks aside, we're now in December. After girls talk to policemen, Ruby comments that the police never caught the torchwick guy I ran into a few months ago. Again, studies show that by few, people usually mean 3 or more. Fits in perfectly with her running into Torchwick a few days before September and now it'd be December. It's also supported by SDC reports we get later on, that have singled out Vale as a primary target for dust robberies over the last few months. We also know it's Friday afternoon, and after Blake outs herself, she is gone for the whole weekend, chilling with Sun. Well, nearly 2 days and you've given me nothing but small talk and weird looks. So, not exactly chilling. Girls have been looking for her for 12 hours the whole night with no apparent worry for missing classes and stuff. So it could be happening at the end of the semester, right before the New Year holidays. But that's more of a speculation, it doesn't matter that much. Now we move into the next calendar year, year 80 and the start of the second semester, which would put Volume 2 Chapter 1 in the middle of January. Consider aforementioned holidays and Ruby saying it's been a good 2 weeks and classes pick back up tomorrow. New Year holidays usually are 2 weeks, so that fits. Also, that means that in few days it will be Blake's 18th birthday. Let's hope they got her books from Tucson in advance before he got shot. Chapter 2 probably takes place on the same day, so all the visiting students would be situated in advance before classes. Chapter 3. Girls start their master plan of gathering intel. And upon running into Penny, Ruby says it's been weeks. Again, more than 3, fits with the holidays and a slight time skip on top of that. We're still in January. Plan goes smoothly, they kick Roman's ass. And after that, we're back to the confusing time shenanigans. It has to have been long enough time for Blake's grades to have been suffering, so let's chuck this whole thing into late February, early March. Fun fact, I'm a teacher and I would know how long it would take for someone's grades to slide down that much over time. And it ain't quick, especially for a student like Blake. We're usually hesitant to mark down students that have started out with good grades, so it would take a while. In either case, the dance is this weekend and then they have their first mission on Monday. Let's assume it took a week for Weiss and Yang to finish planning the event. Now it's Friday, Saturday before the dance. Long enough for Ruby to give up on getting Blake to go with them, but not enough to discourage Yang. Thus, we get the dance next day, paralleling with Cinder infiltrating the tower. Why did I say Friday, Saturday? Because they said the mission is on Monday, but most students seem to have been staying at Beacon still on the day of the breach. They haven't started yet. Insignificant detail, I just think that Ospin's speech and choosing the missions was on Sunday afternoon, with everyone getting a good rest after the dance, and next day students are supposed to leave, if they haven't yet. Ruby just started theirs earlier. Anyway, the missions were supposed to last a week, as Weiss mentioned while not wanting to leave Zwei alone in the dorm where they're gone. But lucky them, they managed to finish it in just 2 days. Monday morning, Ruby fell through the sinkhole, and thus they had to stop Roman's train and then clear out the Grim running to the city. And since they finished their mission early, they got to take another one after resting. It being the questionably canon Grim eclipse from what I know. At least that's what my friends told me, is that it took place after Volume 2. With that, we don't have much more on what happens next in the school year. So we can say that they just did a few more missions, went to classes, finished end-of-year exams. Somewhere in there, JNPR and Weiss turned 18 too. Again, I'm reminding you of the baseline change we made for the cleaner timeline. Vital Festival night takes place in the beginning of second year, not at the end of this one. So now it's summer break. And what everyone was doing during it, we'll see in the later episodes of HRR. Also, Nora, Ren, and Yang have their 18th birthdays, summer children. I still can't believe Yang is the youngest out of them, it's so funny for some reason. Whew, now only a little bit left. The easiest part of the timeline, not gonna lie. Volume 3, which I don't need to remind you takes place in autumn. Far enough into it for it to get colder and for leaves to turn orange, but not far enough for Ruby to turn 16 yet. So, late September, early October. Middle of October at the latest. The tournament itself, we can kind of figure out how long it would take. Judging from us having 8 finalists, there were originally 32 teams competing. We saw 3 fights in one day: Ruby vs Auburn, Lunch Break, Juniper vs Bronze, Sun vs Indigo. By that placement, we can assume there was another fight before our girls, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. That would take 8 days to go through. Then doubles, about 4 days unless they put more matches in the same day. And then finals that got a little bit interrupted twice, so they don't count. Those were 2 days. The finals got postponed after the funky leg prank and resumed the next evening. Fall of Beacon was the night of day 2. With that logic, Vital Festival Tournament, thus Volume 3, took place in the span of 2 weeks somewhere in late September, early October. Now onto placing the exact events on the timeline. As I said before, first 3 chapters take place on the same day. Em and Merc vs Yatsu and Coco was the next day, one of the first matches of the doubles round. So we can assume the 3 team fights we saw were some of the last of the team rounds, thus about 8 days into the tournament. Winter left after a few days, with all the shipments from Atlas safely delivered. Penny and CL and also Weiss and Yang had their double matches in the same day. There was also a cut fight with Pyrrha and Nora, which was also supposed to be on that day, after which Pyrrha got called to the tower for a funky little talk. Hey, so we want to shove a soul of an almost dead girl inside you and hope you won't go crazy. Don't worry, I'll survive it 1,000,000 times and you can too. It surely won't have any traumatic implications that we will be exploring for the next 4 volumes. Oh, also, since tonight is the start of the finals, so we need your answer for this life-changing question like tomorrow. Good luck with the finals! This is so fucked up when you think about it. So yeah, that night the leg prank happens. The finals get postponed until the next evening, and then Penny dies, and then Grim attack, and then everything goes to shit all in the same night. From what I heard from books, that same night Velvet saw that Crow took unconscious Ruby and Yang and got them to Patch. Weiss was taken home probably next day, depending on how long it would take for fly all the way from Atlas on a private jet, and Blake took off after they got to Vale, with Sun following her to make sure she doesn't get herself killed, considering fresh stab wound to the gut. Next we pick up when Ruby wakes up, probably a few days later. Low drop moment happens, and then we skip to winter. Also, Ruby is now 16. When in winter exactly doesn't matter, we got another massive time skip coming. But that's for second arc timeline video, where we would have to untangle the mess of 6 different timelines. I'm already dreading that. So here is the full calendar of events that happened in Arc 1. I will also post it on my Tumblr and community page, so you can look at it all you want as close as you want. And as you can see, this bitch can fit so many events that would fresh out the characters and the world that we didn't get to see. We would just strategically insert them into the story between what we have already. Starting with the next episode, whenever I get to making it after my animatic break. Leave in the comments who I should draw for the speed paint background. Telling you in advance, Oz and Glinda would have their own videos and not them. And not Penny and Sun, they would have their time later. Are they teachers? Coffee? Cardinal? Roman? Whoever you want, I don't really care who to draw. And I'll see you on the other side. So if you for some reason want to debate Lord Me on they didn't actually say that, you can refer to the list, find the needed number, and go to the cited episode and type code to see the line for yourself. От собак сейчас вообще не хватало. These are debate lords trying to bark at me that I'm wrong. So let's put the actual end of the war as year one. Next point would be a red trailer. Blam, 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 blam. By now it's late August, and the application acceptance. By now it's late August, and the application acceptance and the application acceptance letters. We can assume they already had those pods made for.